Welcome, everybody.
Hey.
I'm Paul Cram. I am joined by Randall Berger. For anybody that does not know Randall, he is a Twin Cities actor. He's been a member of the Actors Equity Association since 1990 and SAG-AFTRA member since 1992. He serves on the local Twin Cities SAG-AFTRA board, as well as the National SAG-AFTRA board. And he also serves on the SAG-AFTRA National Committee for Innovation and New Technology. So welcome, Randall. I also want to add in there that he lives with his wife, 3 kids, and he is redoing a Victorian house. So awesome.
Yes, for years and years and years.
Yes. So it's really good to have you, Randall, and
Thanks.
we have a couple of guests as well. But so Randall, tell me a little bit about you serve on the SAG-AFTRA National Committee for Innovation and New Technology. Can you kind of tell me what that is or what that does or who, you know what you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, especially as technology has changed significantly over the last decade, in particular in our industry, the Innovation and New Technology Committee was created to focus the union's attention on the effect that technology has on our industry and how it affects members, and to kind of have a group that stays focused on it and aware of it and evaluate it over time.
Cool.
And so that's how it was created, and that's what we've been meeting. We started right at the beginning, right before the pandemic. So we haven't been meeting a ton, but we've met starting at CES year before last and CES this year, and then meeting virtually.
And what is CES? CES is
the Consumer Entertainment Show, and
okay.
It's an industry event that has been happening for almost 20, 30 years.
Awesome.
That is kind of an expose of new technology and advancements in entertainment. So TVs are the new big TV shown there, or a new gaming system, or that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I'm assuming there's a lot of really amazingly technologically dorky geeks that would attend in such a
Yeah. It started out real geeky, and now it's insanely big. I don't know how many people, 100,000. It was
awesome.
Just immense. Took over all of Las Vegas where they hold it, and it was really interesting. One of the things they talk about.
Did you go to that, or how does that work? Like when you're part of the committee?
Yeah, so our committee was part of a technology summit with the labor movement. And so the AFL-CIO partnered with SAG-AFTRA to talk about technology and how it's affecting the labor movement in general, but also in relation to SAG-AFTRA. And we had a meeting, we had a summit that took place at CES. So this was not this past year, but the year before. It was not virtual at that time. And so we met in Las Vegas. We attended CES, kind of just learned about a lot of the new technologies that were presented there, and then had the summit where we talked about the labor and technology. Awesome. And that was the second summit. The third one was this year. So it's been an ongoing
event. Well, and I know, like, for our talk today, like, we're specifically going to tie this into, basically two sort of things. And I think they interrelate together, and you're going to help shed some light on that. But I guess I'm just going to start with the first question, which is the deep fake. Like, deep fakes. Can you tell me, like, what is a deep fake, and how does that relate to kind of what you just mentioned, which is how does that impact actors, potentially producers? I'm assuming that there's a way.
Yeah.
But if you cue that up.
Yeah. So deep fake, the name itself is kind of a portmanteau of deep learning and fake. So it's kind of using uh, artificial intelligence and technology to create a fake image of someone that is then presented in some form. Usually with video, you could argue that audio can be used in that manner as well. And so oftentimes you have a video of a body or a recording of a person's body, and then you overlay someone's face over that. So I don't know, you and I might be able to do it, but like, excuse me, where someone could take your face, overlay it on mine, and use technology to do that.
Yeah,
But I would be the one talking, and I would be the one having the attitude, and I would be the one saying things that you are not saying, but you're the one representing it all of a sudden. And when it first started coming out, it could almost be as cheesy as like an old photo where you put my head on Arnold Schwarzenegger's body, and you could obviously see it wasn't real. It's getting, even at the first CES, it was getting to the point where you could, I would say, certainly fool someone in passing by on a website where they see a little video playing. It's getting to the point now where it's going to be indistinguishable. At CES, there was another group from, I believe, California Institute of Technology, and they were, I might be wrong with the name of the school, but
yeah, no worries.
there was one of the teachers there who was developing technology to kind of root out deep fakes and figure out what is real and what's not. So a place you might see it, and a place that it might be, the places that are currently obvious with it is kind of usually what happens with a lot of things. It's in kind of the immediate gratification area. So like in pornography, in violence, and then even to a certain extent, the concern is it being used in politics, for example. Having a,
I'm even seeing it too, Randall, in my social media feeds, where I think there's even apps now where I'm seeing clips from movies, and it's like, throw your face on this. You know what I mean? Like I'm seeing it in, again, sort of an instant gratification type of an idea, maybe not as scandalous as some of the ways it could be used.
Well, that's where we're trying to come up with some ways that that we really need to protect members. So something like pornography is really obvious. So you have a member being put in a compromising position that they didn't intend to, or an actor.
Right.
Then you have something where it could be dangerous in other ways, like a president saying something such as we're firing on North Korea, or something weird like that. And then a less insidious, violent or insidious way, you could have Paul Cram's image being used to sell a product that you don't intend to sell, or a product that you disagree with. But like anything, it can be used in a positive way. So, for example, the technology was used to bring Luke Skywalker back in a scene where he was his young self. I think De Niro did it too, although it wasn't. It was kind of in its early phases. In I forget the movie. It was one of the recent. I think it was Scorsese movie.
Well, and Star Wars fans maybe would know this better than I, but didn't Princess Leia, I'm forgetting the actress, she passed away, and didn't they use this technology?
Carrie Fisher. Well,
Carrie Fisher,
that was more, from what I understand, just CGI. So you're building it off an entire, like you're literally just creating an artistic image that is just very detailed to the point that it's photorealistic. The deep fake would actually be over myself, in this case right now, someone's face from the recording we're doing right now, putting that image over. Uh, and so,
So the question is, Randall, is it really you?
and it's going to be, I mean,
Yeah, where it gets to an interesting place. Um, how can you relate sort of that deep fake? Like, I do want to ask you too, like, because I know that you've mentioned to me neon. So how are these, like, can you explain to me how these are different?
related. Yeah. So, well, first off, just before I forget,
Yeah, please.
two other things about deepfake. It's changed exponentially just in a year. So, or year and a half since we talked about it at the first CES, but
Mhm.
it's going to become so kind of ubiquitous across the the, the internet and in entertainment that it's going to have to be addressed in some way. Um, and people are going to become more familiar with it. But the other thing was, I saw the other day that there's deep fake satellite technology now. So someone takes an image off of Google Maps or a moving image off Google Maps and does deep fake work on that and makes something appear like it isn't,
Like it's something
which
that
could
it's not.
be
Oh,
a big deal if it's looks like somebody is, I don't know, putting missiles into place in some foreign country. So now
hmm.
neon is slightly different. Neon, uh, uh, neon. My experience with neon was I was walking through CES, which, as I was saying, is just a massive warehouse upon or convention center kind of spaces, but multiple of them. You're just walking through tons of stuff. And I was trying to get to one of our meetings, and I walked by this place that had a whole bunch of life, like 7-foot mirrors, and there were people in the mirrors, and there was like the photographer, and there was the newscaster, and there was a teacher, and there was a aerobics instructor. And I was looking at them. It looked like just a recording of someone talking. And as I came up and started to notice, I realized that they weren't actual people. They were what this company calls artificial humans. And as I learned, and I ended up being there for like the next hour. Uh, but what they do is they take scans of someone's face and
Hmm.
create an artificial human out of that, and then have that person do things. If it's a newscaster, talk about the news. If it's a weathercaster, then they talk about the weather, or a teacher, or uh, leading an aerobics class. And the idea being is that at that point, it's not an already recorded, uh, something that's already been recorded, but rather something that's being created on the fly through an algorithm. And where it started to get pretty creepy is it could react to people walking by. It could react to certain inputs, but it wouldn't act the same way each time. So they were creating an algorithm of reaction. So if uh, if they were smiling, they would smile one way, and then the next time they'd smile, it'd be a different smile, and then another time it would be a little laugh. It was terribly uncanny, um, and where where everyone could see it, kind of transferring over into the entertainment broadcast realm is, well, do we maybe instead of having a weather person, we scan someone and have them be the weather person from now on out? And it's intimidating. I think, as I was saying earlier, there can be good things and bad things about it, but uh, uh, the idea that someone is now the weathercaster and can do it 24 hours a day can be pretty intimidating to someone who's currently a weathercaster or someone who's a teacher. You
Sure.
know, some of the positive things is you could have a doctor who could help someone in sub-Saharan Africa, and you could have a display there that could really answer and help people. So there's pros and cons, but I think it's something that can be worked out. And at least when we ended up talking to Neon, and they seemed truly interested in not exploiting people from it. So I hope that happens.
Yeah,
But
no,
this
it's
year,
interesting.
when I went to their site this year for CES, now, it's neon.life is their website. I mean,
Dot
you'll
life,
see the images, neon.life instead
neon
of
dot life.
.com.
Okay.
You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I mean, looks
That's
like entirely real.
yeah. It reminds me, there's just something to it. There, I saw, and I'm gonna forget because I don't remember the name, but there's an Instagram account that there was like just a, I don't know if she's based on a real human or if she just was like created and photoshopped together, but she was like the first Instagram influencer to
Oh,
get
yes.
representation by like a big agency, which I thought was
Mhm.
interesting, just relating to what you're talking about, where it's like, do we have like flesh and blood human beings doing some of these jobs, or do we move into something unique and different? Instead of answering that question, though, I wanted to
Mhm.
see, I know Catherine and Casey are here on the call. We only have a couple more minutes before we kind of wrap up. And I just wanted to give people an opportunity. Does anybody have any questions specifically to maybe what Randall's been talking about, or even, if you have any input or questions, like now would be the time.
And we will be meeting other times too.
We
but-
will be, yeah. This is one of a series of things on technology. So, but I just wanted to, Catherine, I think you have a question.
Well, yeah, not a question. I know I came in late, so I don't know if you guys have covered this, but are you aware of what's going on with Bev Standing in the voiceover world with TikTok?
Did you say that first part again, Catherine?
Okay, I'll drop it in the chat. So this woman who's very well known in the voiceover world, she's a Canadian non-SAG-AFTRA. She's a Canadian voice actor, and she is suing TikTok for using, she is the voice of TikTok, voice to text, and she never authorized her voice for that. Sorry,
Oh, really?
text to voice. So if you, I've never looked at TikTok, but apparently if you create a video and you want to put voice over it or put text in that will be read, it's her voice. And people started telling her, like, your voice is on TikTok, your voice. She got paid not very much money by some Chinese company to do voice to text stuff years ago. And her contract said, you're paying me for this. And they've gone on to use it for TikTok. And she's doing a huge lawsuit. It's all over the papers. I mean, that's on BBC she's on, but it's just huge, international news in the voiceover world for technology being abused and using people without the right to.
Catherine, was her contract done under any type of union contract, or was
no?
it
like I said, no, she's not in any. She's not whatever the Canadian union is. She's not in the union, but she does do contracts. Like, I'm not that good about doing. I mostly let my agent handle that stuff, and if I do stuff outside of my agent, I don't do contracts. But so she did have a contract, and she's got Anthony Scapalia is like the top voiceover attorney in the world that I know of. He's in Los Angeles, and he handles this stuff. And I have great faith that they are going to have to compensate her for. And she's a very sweet, I think, Christian woman, and there's a lot of foul recordings with her voice. So she's just heartbroken over it, as much as personally, as much as professionally.
You bring up such a good point, Catherine. That whole idea of having somebody, and I know that we kind of touched on this, Randall, what you were talking about, where like taking somebody's image and or putting somebody's face on something, but literally taking someone's voice and making them say something that you would maybe have like a personal moral quandary with is a big deal.
Yep.
I think that's a big part of the lawsuit, is that she feels really offended, in addition to being financially, injured by it.
Yeah. And you don't know. I mean, it can also put you at risk. I mean, what if during something like the current a political environment, you said something that was not what you intended? You get people mad at you. If they don't know that it's not real. Or could even, if you said something to the effect of, I'm going to commit this crime, well, or I've committed this crime.
Right.
And one thing about that though, Catherine, that was interesting is we are working with some, or SAG-AFTRA is working with some producers to try to come up with a way to have you be able to give your voice to be used in that fashion, but in a way that's fair and you have some control over.
Yeah, I'm working with a client on that who's great
Are you?
creating there's an old client of mine I reached out to recently from like a decade ago, and he's like, oh, that I'm actually developing a database of top voice talent that can then be licensed, because it's going to happen anyway. Better that it happens with the union.
Yep.
And
Yes. Yes.
So I'm working with him, and at some point I would like to kind of bring him into the union fold to see if, he would go down that route. But he's basically creating a database of voices where you spend a few hours probably recording everything you could possibly say, every word and syllable and number and sound. And then he can license for a specific usage, just as we do through the union. And then, you don't even have to work again, and you'll get just the residuals without the session fee. Yes, please.
I know there's things that are good about it.
Yeah. If it's used for good. Yeah.
And it's going to get really complex. Like, what if we take your voice, but then we modulate it slightly differently and say, well, that's not Kathy. So there's
gray area.
It's going to be interesting.
Is it though? I'm not sure if it's gray. Like, I think that there's.
Well, I don't think it's gray.
Because I see that, like, I know YouTube has gotten into trouble with, there's people trying to kind of manipulate, like, oh, let's take that show, Little House on the Prairie, and like, we'll change something a little bit and change the sound, and so we can get around the copyrights. But it's still, at its core, it's based on that, and I would think the same thing for voice.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Sure.
Yeah.
If we can somehow find that baseline, where it came from.
I do want to wrap this up. Is there anything, Randall, and or Catherine too, is there anything else that you guys wanted to say before we, push pause?
I just put another thing in the chat because it was about tech. It's not about taking advantage of actors. It was more good news, is that my partner he's a sound engineer, and he told me about this new speakers that are being created that are hyper realistic, where like you put it in your house, and when you talk with the Alexa thing, or you listen to it, it sounds just like that person is in the room with you.
Really?
So say it again. Say it one more time, Kathy.
You can just click on the link, because I just found about it myself. It's it's called Spatial Audio, and it's like hyper realistic in the room with you. It sounds just like, where now you have to put headphones on to kind of hear like the person's in the room with you, but it recreates by sort of figuring out the spatial. Yeah. I don't know. It seemed really exciting. It's sort of related. Yeah.
No, that is. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I threw a couple things in there too.
You did, and I'm actually just going to say one of them for anybody, because I am going to share this video on some social things, and
great.
The chat is included. But I just wanted to say neon.life, LIFE. For some reason, I was thinking light, but it's life, NEON.LIFE.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
he looks real.
And someone behind them's like Wizard of Oz controlling him. Smile.
Yeah.
Frown.
Yeah.
Say these words.
Paul.
Yes.
Paul, are you to copy and paste the chat wherever you end up sharing the video?
I believe I am.
Within the comments.
Download the chat.
In the comments. Yeah, I should be able to do that.
Yeah.
I will attempt to do so. If there's any glitches, I apologize in advance.
Thank you for your service again. Oh my God. Someone just pounded on my studio window, and it scared the crap out of me.
Hopefully it's okay.
Yeah, hopefully. I was going to say, oh no.
My neighborhood mycologist is looking for mushrooms in my yard. I'm not kidding.
I love it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this particular piece up. Thank you, Randall, for being a part of it, and Casey and Catherine. This has been lovely. Thanks, everyone. And
we'll see you next time.